Motorhead Garage, presented by DragonfireTools.com. Industrial workbenches with integrated tool storage. And brought to you by AMSOIL, the first in synthetics. Tailgate Defender, engineered to fold, built to hold. And by Custom Autosound, the originator of classic car OEM fit radios since 1977.
Motorhead Garage is presented by DragonfireTools.com. Just take a look at this beautiful 1964 Chevrolet Impala SS. Incredibly restored, and I tell you, this thing looks just like it did when it rolled off the assembly line and rolled down Main Street cruising in 1964. Now, we all know cruising just isn't cruising without some good music. And if you're doing a restoration or a build, you have a few different options in regards to the stereo. Now, you can buy an aftermarket stereo that has great sound, but it won't look the part. That thing's going to stick out like a sore thumb on your vintage dash. And you can try to find an original radio, and good luck finding one that works or one you can afford. And to boot, it probably won't sound that great because it's using old technology. What's more, you won't have the conveniences you're used to, like Bluetooth, the ability to play your MP3 player or a CD or satellite radio or anything like that. But you can have it all with Custom Autosound, a modern stereo that looks great and looks just like a vintage analog radio from the 1960s. This particular unit is a USA 630. Of course, it has Bluetooth capabilities, and it has 300 watts of peak power, which should be all you need. This thing fits right in your dash with no modifications, and it comes with a bezel or a trim piece with your car or truck's manufacturer's logo. You can see the Chevy logo right there. Now, Custom Autosound has been around for nearly 50 years, almost as long as this Impala. These things are durable, high-quality units that are made to last, and that's because every Custom Autosound model undergoes extreme temperature testing, a temperature aging test, and, super important in a muscle car, a vibration test. Before it leaves the factory, each Custom Autosound radio is hand-inspected and adjusted by a technician. Custom Autosound covers 400 plus makes and models. They have an amazing array of radios and speakers made to fit your vehicle and made to fit your budget. That's important too. There's 4 different models of in-dash radios, including the slide bar radio. And with the slide bar radio, you get a radio that looks just like an old analog radio when it's turned off. And when you slide the bar, you get a digital display that allows you to control every function of your radio, just like a modern radio. If you have a street rod or a classic and you want to leave the original radio in the dash, the secret audio radio is just for you. That unit hides usually under the seat or behind the dash, and you get your Bluetooth, AM, FM radio, iPod control, CD control, and it integrates perfectly with your speaker system. No one will even know it's there. Now, by the way, I mentioned speakers. Custom Autosound has speakers too, and just like their radios, their speakers are made to match your car's style or to hide under a seat if you want to keep the vehicle's original looks. Custom Autosound makes units for over 400 different makes and models. I guarantee you they're going to have one that looks great in your car or truck. You can find them at CustomAutosound.com. And hey, look over there. There's everybody's favorite professor, John Gardner.
Do you know with one tool and some simple diagnosis, you can tell the condition of your engine? Well, you can. It's called a vacuum gauge. Welcome to this AMSOIL Tech Tip. Let's talk a little bit about vacuum. What is it and how it's created? Well, we all know compression. When it goes up, it actually squeezes that mixture in there. The rings, the valves, it's all got to be able to squash in there. But opposite that, as that piston's going down, that's called the intake stroke. We're actually drawing that air-fuel mixture in and creating a vacuum. You can see it in action right here. That piston's on its way down, and when that piston's on its way down, that intake valve's open. We're creating an absence of pressure, a vacuum. That air-fuel ratio is then getting put into that cylinder. I told you you can actually use a vacuum gauge to read it. Yeah, super simple. How do you want to hook it up? Well, just find you a vacuum source. Always past the throttle body there. We got a Mustang here. We actually found a good vacuum source right there. Just put a vacuum gauge on it. You're gonna have somebody inside the car. Go ahead and start the car. Once you start the car, read your gauge. What are you looking for on the gauge? Well, that's important. I got a couple different readings here for you. Normal vacuum, 17 to 21 inches of mercury. Low but steady, the actual next 3 of them. You got low but steady, you got steady low, and then you got steady low. You either have an intake leak or something going on with the timing, something like that. And then you can actually use it for a clogged exhaust. You can hold it to 2,500 RPM, and then if it slowly goes to 0, you know that you're not getting the exhaust out, you can't get any vacuum in. Len, though, one problem is those high-performance cars. That camshaft. If I have that camshaft, vacuum gauge readings are not going to work, and you need some special considerations with that as well. What are you going to do for high-performance cars with AMSOIL?
Well, from an oil standpoint, generally speaking, that hippity-hoppity camshaft that you're talking about, it requires more additives, more wear protection. Basically, it's a boosted, formulation. Our racing oils, when we're speaking ultra-high performance, are fortified with that. So it's got extra zinc, is the key word that everybody knows. It's got boosted zinc. It's got boosted anti-wear additives. It's got very, very robust, heavy-duty base oils in it to provide the protection that those racing engines require.
Now, they need that because of bearings. Let's talk a little bit about bearings and racing oils, more compression.
Right, compression, supercharging, nitrous oxide, all of those things are going to apply heavy pressure on the bearings. So if you don't have good film strength, that metal can get real close to touching, and that creates wear.
Old school cars with that cam lope, and we also have different camshafts back then too.
Correct. Flat tappet camshafts, were and continue to be a thing. Those require, very simply, they require ZDDP, also referred to as zinc. And once again, we do boost our racing oils with more zinc.
Well, whether you have a normal car, a race car, snowmobile, ATV, UTV, no matter what you have, just go to AMSOIL.com and they got a specifically designed oil for you.
The PaintedAutoParts.com Motorhead of the Week is Pete Olson from Hebron, Connecticut. Surprise, Pete, your wife Shelly is the one who nominated you. Now, Pete and his best friend went to their first drag race when they were still in high school, and as the story goes, they were hooked. Just a few years later, Pete found the perfect car to go drag racing. It was a 1968 Dodge Dart. Now, Pete did a lot of the fabrication by himself. It's still a work in progress. He did the roll cage, the ladder bars, the mods on the dash and trunk. The first time he took it to the track, it was a 12-second car clocking in at 110 miles an hour. Nearly 25 years later, Pete and the Dart are still together, as I mentioned, and the Dart is in its fourth configuration of its big block 440. What was once a 12-second car ran in the low 10s just last season. Now, Pete has high hopes to break into the 9s this year, so good luck, Pete. You can be like Shelly Olson. You can rat out a friend or a family member. Just tell us all about them, why they should be the PaintedAutoParts.com Motorhead of the Week. Just send us a note at motorheadgarage.tv. We will do it once again next week. We hope you join us then. We'll see you next time on Motorhead Garage, presented by DragonfireTools.com.